Good Friday afternoon to those of you watching on the East Coast. Good morning to you on the Central Time Zone, Mountain Time Zone, and of course out there at the Pacific Time Zone, 9 o'clock in the morning out there in California. Welcome to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez on this Friday, June 19th, 2026. President Trump is heading to Camp David in Maryland this weekend for numerous meetings. This as Independence Day 250, Freedom 250, America 250, all the 250 things is 15 days away. Looking forward to that, of course, here at the network. I know a lot of you are as well, as we're looking live there in Washington, D.C. Again, President Trump heading to Camp David for the weekend. Every event there is closed to the press. If anything opens, I'm sure we'll be able to upload that or go live with it. Also, we know that the president will be departing a bit later today from Joint Base Andrews and greeting some military service members as well on his way. So if that is open to the press or there's a White House feed, we'll bring that to you live. But in the meantime, let's switch over to specifically more information about the Trump administration as it tackles waste, fraud, and abuse within the unemployment insurance program throughout all the states out there. Check out clip number 1.
The Trump administration and the Department of Labor are officially putting governors on notice. The American people will no longer tolerate the blatant waste, fraud, and abuse of their hard-earned tax dollars. And neither should any state. We are demanding immediate action to combat fraud, waste, and abuse within the unemployment insurance program. That's why, under President Trump, the Department of Labor is committed to using every lever available to ensure taxpayer money is protected. To date, we've discovered that the state of California owes more than $20 billion to the federal government after years of fraud, improper payments, and mismanagement of its UI system.
$320 million in improper payments from Illinois, and New York, my home state, is losing an estimated $2 million every single day to fraud and improper payments, while posting one of the highest improper payment rates in the nation, more than 20%. But the days of excuses, they're over. States that fail to protect taxpayer dollars and jeopardize benefits intended for hardworking Americans, they should expect consequences. Acting Secretary Sonderling and I will use every available enforcement tool to demand accountability, recover stolen money, and ensure unemployment benefits only go to eligible Americans.
Years of failed oversight, outdated technology, weak identity verification, and lax controls allowed unprecedented fraud to flourish. The Department of Labor is committed to rooting out fraud, enforcing UI eligibility requirements, and protecting American taxpayers.
All right, so we see that. We also see that anti-fraud task force led by the Vice President, J.D. Vance, as well. Meantime, if you're flying this summer, for a vacation, cool. We don't have any plans as a family to fly anywhere, maybe a road trip, but the FAA is actually upgrading its communication devices at airports all across the country. Here's Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy with more details.
In air traffic control, if a pilot can't hear a controller, we have a big problem.
In order for us to effectively communicate with pilots, we need good radios.
Right now, many pilots and controllers are communicating with technology from the 80s and 90s. Our airspace needs the latest and greatest tech. That's why we're installing 27,000 new digital radios and voice switches across the country. It's like moving from a walkie-talkie to a brand new iPhone.
We are here in Oakland Airport and we are tuning and installing the new radios for air traffic control. These new radios are more advanced and more reliable for air traffic control.
With the old system, we would have frequency congestion, radios not working properly.
These new radios give the controllers the confidence they need to effectively and safely do their job.
This makes the conversation between the cockpit and the air traffic control tower crystal clear.
And with these new radios, we are seeing less miscommunications, less static, less overall congestion.
Pilots and controllers need to have communications at all times, and those communications need to be very reliable.
When lives are on the line, loud and clear isn't just a phrase, it's a requirement.
All right, so from the friendly skies across the country and in some cases around the world, if you're doing any overseas travel, back to that building right there, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, of course, the White House behind it. The UFC stage, I think, is still set up there as the White House is celebrating its UFC Freedom 250 event with a new video. Let's check out clip number 3.
UFC fans have traveled far and wide across the United States and around the globe, all to witness history and be a part of this uniquely special mixed martial arts showcase that is UFC Freedom 250.
Freedom at the White House on Donald Trump's birthday. What an event.
Welcome to UFC Freedom 250. Here is the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
From the south lawn of the White House, Diego Lopez preserving status. Nickel of the White House. Mauricio lighting him up in D.C. Undefeated Josh Hogan. All eyes on Sean O'Malley. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. And look at where we are. This is insane. Ilya Topuria against the tried and true American Justin Gaethje.
These dudes are going at it.
Justin Gaethje with the ultimate career capstone at the Worlds.
One of the great upsets in the history of the sport.
On the 250th anniversary, Justin Gaethje showed that American spirit that allowed him to become a world champion.
This is the greatest night in the history of combat sports.
All right, let's go from the UFC to some very, very serious matters as well. The outgoing D&I director, Tulsi Gabbard, is releasing some key information that is exposing Anthony Fauci at a new level in relation to COVID. Let's take a look at clip number 4.
Before the COVID pandemic, Dr. Fauci, as head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, work which is now widely viewed as the source of the unintentional lab leak that sparked the pandemic. Now, in support of President Trump's maximum transparency mandate, today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus's lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and countless lost lives. Now, these documents expose Fauci's direct role in influencing and manipulating IC assessments on COVID-19 and how Fauci lied to Congress in 2024 when under oath he denied knowledge of or participation in discussions with intelligence officials about viral research. We also received testimony from multiple intelligence community whistleblowers who reported retaliation for challenging the intelligence community's manipulation of intelligence on the virus's origins, once again revealing a clear pattern of suppressing dissent, silencing critics, and burying the truth. Dr. Fauci's close relationships with the intelligence community enabled him to assume 3 key roles that shield him from scrutiny. First, Dr. Fauci funded dangerous gain-of-function coronavirus research linked to Big Pharma and their pursuit of universal vaccines worth trillions of dollars. Second, Dr. Fauci was the behind-the-scenes advisor who, alongside his hand-picked so-called experts, pushed the intelligence community to endorse a natural animal origin to hide his dangerous gain-of-function research that he funded using taxpayer dollars, all of this in a deliberate attempt to cover up the truth and shift the blame and attention away from Fauci's own actions. Third, Dr. Fauci became the nation's pandemic pundit, and he publicly pushed lies, disinformation, and censorship using every platform available. Now, according to hundreds of reviewed emails, which are included in this release, the intelligence community almost always incorporated Fauci's recommendations. He promoted a fraudulent paper whose publication he helped prompt as legitimate information for intelligence community consideration. Senior analysts praised Dr. Fauci not as a policymaker, but as what they called an unbiased guide to the real coronavirus experts, while deliberately ignoring experts who might dissent from Fauci's narratives. Now, Fauci didn't stop there. He blatantly lied to Congress under oath during his 2024 testimony to the House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, denying that he ever spoke to any intelligence agency about COVID. Now, the correspondence I'm releasing today directly contradicts his sworn testimony. Now, we received statements from multiple whistleblowers revealing that the intelligence analysts who dared to challenge Dr. Fauci's COVID origin conclusions faced threats of retaliation, marginalization, and many suffered career setbacks. For example, a contractor was terminated just days after coming forward to ODNI as a whistleblower. Another example, those who advocated for the lab leak hypothesis or expressed dissenting views were reminded by their managers that leadership would determine which analysts would be promoted and which would not. The message was clear: go along or be punished. Senior leaders also sought to undermine whistleblowers by removing anonymity, which is required in the whistleblower process, as they made their complaints, and also insisting that their managers or attorneys be present during ODNI meetings where these whistleblowers were coming forward with their testimony, obviously creating an atmosphere of intimidation. The COVID pandemic caused tremendous hardship and pain for millions of our fellow Americans and countless people around the world. Now, after years of lies and censorship and cover-ups, the American people deserve transparency, truth, and accountability. The tactics that were used to hide the truth are straight from the deep state playbook. Politicized, self-serving leaders like Dr. Fauci covered up their own wrongdoing and abuses of power, manipulated intelligence, lied to Congress, and undermined a duly elected president by restricting his access to the vital facts he needed to keep the country safe. It's time you know the truth.
And if you're just joining us, we're going to replay that in just a little bit, all about COVID and Anthony Fauci and all of that. That with the outgoing DNI director, Tulsi Gabbard. Now, that video was posted yesterday, so yesterday was her last day at that role, but we'll play that a little bit later in the broadcast. We have a couple live interviews to get to next here on Right Side. Before we get to that, let's quickly go to our great sponsors here on Right Side, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Father's Day is this weekend, so Sunday, June 21st, as today's the 19th. And if there's one thing dads are known for, it's making sure the family is prepared. You keep the extra batteries, the tools in the garage, and a plan for just about everything. So why should healthcare be any different? Right now, our sponsor, All Family Pharmacy, is helping families stock up on the medications they need with a Father's Day sale, 25% off site-wide through June 22nd. This is with code RSBN25. And whether it's everyday prescription medications, allergy meds, antibiotics, ivermectin, NAD+, or even other treatments prescribed by a licensed physician, All Family Pharmacy makes the process simple and convenient. All you have to do is complete a short online medical form, and a licensed doctor will review your information and determine if a prescription is appropriate. And if approved, your medications are shipped directly to your door. It's simple, it's fast, and the way healthcare should be. So don't miss out on this Father's Day sale. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN and save up to 25%. Actually, save 25% right out of the gate there at checkout. So it's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Let's go to one more sponsor prior to our live interviews that are on deck here on Right Side. If you want to buy some gold and put some silver in your pocket, you can do that. But if expenses are, out of control right now and you don't have the extra cash, a lot of people are saying that. Well, check this out. One thing you can do right now and control right now that doesn't cost you anything out of pocket is diversifying your retirement savings. So Birch Gold Group will help you convert an old 401k from a previous employer or an IRA into a physical IRA in gold. It's really something that's a hedge against inflation. And check this out. Right now, Birch Gold is going to give you a special America 250 1-ounce silver round for every $10,000 you purchase by July 10th. 10 years ago, an ounce of gold was $1,200. Today, it's around $4,500. The question is, where will it be 10 years from now? Just text Trump to 989898 to take advantage of free America 250 silver with qualifying purchase before July 10th. Again, text Trump to that number, 989898 today. Two great sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network on this Friday, June 19th. Let's get to some of our live interviews here on the network. Joining us now is Joe Gabia, Senior Founder and CEO of State Shield. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Definitely. Let's zoom in on the state of Louisiana.
Okay.
What did Louisiana do this spring to protect its citizens from foreign influence, and why?
They did a lot. It's been a very aggressive state for us and a very successful year. We passed 34 bills this year, and the state of Louisiana, we had 9 different options running, as well as 3 resolutions. So the boys were very busy. We passed, I believe it was 4 bills actually in the state. So what they did is they passed a very, very important crackdown on foreign adversary activity. This is people that come in to try to block constitutional activities within the state, and they called it, it was put out by Representative Dodie Horton. So that's good for the folks there to know that Dodie's been doing a very, very good job. They also went and they did one against foreign adversaries protecting from foreign terrorists coming in, and it was through the educational system, and it blocked actors from actually entering or contributing to schools, making sure they report what they do, and making sure that taxpayers' funds were being used appropriately for curriculum. That's really important. There's a lot of activity going on right now, especially from countries like Qatar.
Well, then when you look at some of the curriculum, get your hands off our education system, but also this is so you're saying there's a new law targeting foreign-owned land near military bases, correct? And then
Right.
So how does that work then?
Yeah, so what they do is they have a distance from military bases. And these bills around the country are always going through phases, which is best practices. So what we're getting to eventually here is it prevents anybody who's part of what's from either Iran, Russia, China, or North Korea from buying land. So basically the threat is from China. And you have members of the CCP coming over to America, and they're openly buying land. So what we do is we know who's on the block list, and we do a deep search. And a lot of times they try to filter this through other LLCs or other corporations. So sometimes it's an in-depth. But once we identify that person, we can block them from purchasing land or the organization. Once we determine it, we work with AGs on this, attorney generals. We got it to the point around the country where we can actually claw back the land now. And we charge the entity for the fee to have to claw back. And that was pioneered by Governor Sanders in Arkansas. And then in the state of South Dakota, just to update your listeners, they even brought it to a better, where they took not only military bases, but National Guard stations, armories, anything that had to do with the military. And then when they did distances they found they were overlapping, so they just did the entire state, which also covered agricultural. We're seeing this whole phase about trying to protect land purchase, not just from military bases now, but also protecting our food supply through agricultural. So we're really improving every year in what we do, and we go back to the states that did original bills, and we have them update. We propose updates.
And then for those that are unaware, can you tell us about State Shield overall? I mean, we hear some of the nuts and bolts right now, but what's that 30,000-foot view of what you guys do?
Well, we started, we're in our 4th year now. We've passed a total of 54 bills, which is pretty impressive for what we're doing. And we cover a plethora of items from stopping drone sales, DJI, which owns 90% of the drone business. We do a higher education bill where if a country like Qatar wants to give money to a school, they have to report it. The federal requirement is $250,000. We bring it to 0. So if they're trying to pay salaries to professors to influence soft power in curriculum, we know it. The biggest threat there is how they place people into research labs to do a lot of theft. That's where a very, very big part of the IP theft in America comes from. And it's with postgraduate and then postdoctoral students at the research labs. We target that. We have like 20, 25 different categories that we approach on how we try to block what China is doing. And we're getting better and better and better at this. And the legislators are amazing. They get it. They get it. And they're extremely patriotic. And a lot of times pressure will come from third parties or people who have a vested interest. They don't yield. I'm so proud of these state legislators and how patriotic they are and really looking after America.
That's awesome. So could Louisiana's approach become that model for other states out there, specifically when we're talking about that new law there in Louisiana?
Yeah, well, yeah, it'll enhance best practices. Sometimes it's just incremental, but every time you put them together, it seems to be significant. But the real answer to your question about Louisiana is they have already set the mark nationally. They were out of the chute at the very beginning. We did a scorecard in 2025. And I took it all the way back to 2021 because it's the first time we did a scorecard. And we wanted to properly give credit to states that did things, especially during COVID. And Louisiana was way up there. I mean, the boys there took a lot of initiative. And all we did was facilitate educational and format and recommendations on legislation. And then they took it and they ran from there. It was amazing. Jeff Landry is doing a phenomenal job. I have such respect for him.
So what was the genesis? What was the origin of you creating State Shield? What was the first thing that made this happen?
Well, as soon as COVID came and I watched the way all the internet, the way the search engines were blocking information and the way the doctors weren't being able to actually practice science, it was pretty obvious to me. And then there was no retort. I didn't see the fight back, and I feared for my grandchildren. I really feared that they were not going to be able to appreciate the America that I knew. And that got me going. And actually on my business card, it says State Shield, and on the back it says professional grandfather. And I get a lot of smiles on it about it. And I say, that's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing.
That's pretty awesome stuff. And I'm sure people resonate with that. God, family, and country right there. Joe Gabillas, Sr., the founder and CEO of State Shield. Thanks so much for doing what you're doing out there in the country, and thanks for joining us here on Right Side.
See you next time.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome stuff. Yeah, great to see that there. And it always comes down to that, it seems like. You know, when I interview various people, whether it's an author or whether it's whoever, I ask them why do what you do. You know, sometimes it's the easy, simple question that really gets some of the best answers out there when it comes to journalism. A lot of times what we see, whether it's the White House press briefing or just these long form interviews, is just this, instead of a question, a statement and then 5 other statements, and then it finally gets to the question. I understand that if you feel passionate about something, you have freedom of speech to do it, fine. And, you know, we go on and on here at the network sometimes in our commentary, but when it comes down to it, when you're interviewing somebody, it's sometimes that easier way to just say, why do you do what you do? Anyway. We have another interview coming up. We have a number of them today as we are live here. President Trump going to Camp David in Maryland, and everything is closed press so far for today, so we'll see if anything changes. But outside of that, let's go to some more sponsors here on Right Side before we get to our next interview here on Right Side. Let's go to mypillow.com/RSBN. Of course, America 250, the 4th of July sale. Independence Day 250 is 15 days away. Save up to 80% with mypillow.com/RSBN. Great products there. I almost don't even have to sell you on it because I believe a lot of you actually do have MyPillow products, whether you're watching this live or on replay later in the day or maybe over the weekend. But there are some great products there. So check them out, mypillow.com/RSBN. Save up to 80%. Also, speaking of RSBN, if you'd like to donate to the network, all you have to do is go to rsbnetwork.com/donate. rsbnetwork.com/donate. All right, joining us next is Patrick O'Donnell. He's an author joining us right now, and you can see right there behind him, The Revolutionary Snipers is one of his new books coming out. Thanks so much for joining us, sir.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Can you talk to us about Revolutionary Snipers and also your thoughts about America 250 coming up in 15 days?
This is our most important milestone because it's our most important generation. It's our greatest generation, in my opinion. And I've interviewed over 2,000 or 3,000 veterans from World War II. And I'll never forget I asked a veteran from Darby's Rangers, are you the greatest generation? And this is a guy that went on raids in North Africa against the the Italians and Nazis. And he said, no, Patrick, what about the boys of 76 and 75 who fought for the cause?
Wow.
This is about the men and women that created the founding documents that changed the world. It's about freedom and liberty. It's an incredible generation that fought an 8-year war against the greatest empire at the time and our first civil war against fellow loyalists that didn't believe in the cause. And it's a miracle that we prevailed in the War of Independence. And I've written 14 books on American history. My specialty, I'm the authority on special operations and irregular warfare. And I've written a trilogy on the elite units and special operations units in the Revolution. The first 2 books are called Washington's Immortals, which is on the Maryland line. And the second is on the Indispensables. This is the Marblehead Mariners who rode Washington across the Delaware and saved the Army at the Battle of Brooklyn. When they rode they created the American Dunkirk that saved Washington and the Army. So where the providential fog sets in and basically screens the prying eyes of the British who are in front of them, and also the Royal Navy. And Revolutionary Snipers is about the riflemen. These are the first members of the Continental Army, where Congress asked for 10 companies of riflemen. And these are frontier commandos who were really some of the most rugged individuals. Many of them were long hunters, where they would range and hunt beyond the Alleghenies, in hostile Native American areas, and survive in the wilderness alone in many cases for weeks and months at a time. And these men then come together to form the first units in the Continental Army. And my book is about them. And it comes out in November. It's available for pre-order on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. But it's about rugged individuals and the individuals that made our country at this time. And they were also in the greatest and most decisive points of the Revolutionary War. And it's their personal agency in many cases that tips the scales.
As you're speaking there, I'm thinking of 1775 and George Washington with the great crossing of the Delaware. That image, that picture, that painting that has been done so many times, including, I guess you have it right there. There it is. So it's, and that's your book too, huh?
It is. This is the second book in the trilogy. It's called The Indispensables. It's on the Marblehead Mariners that rode Washington across. You see this iconic picture, and what is it really about? It's about the men that rode Washington across the Delaware. And what's interesting about it is they were actually the first diverse regiment. You had Native Americans in here. There's an African American, but they all come together and do the impossible. There were 3. Washington loved complicated plans. At the Battle of Trenton on Christmas Day, 1776, he launched 3 prongs of his army to take Trenton, which was a Hessian outpost in New Jersey. And this is the time when America was literally falling apart. This is a crisis. There was hyperinflation. The army was melting apart in front of his eyes because the enlistments were expired. So he had to do something. And this is the great gamble. And to cross that river was one of the most amazing things. It was the middle of a nor'easter, and only one group in the army, which was the men in the Marblehead Regiment that rowed the boats, were able to cross. The other 2 elements of the army failed to cross that day because it was just far too treacherous. They get them across, and they seize Trenton and the garrison. It's the men of Revolutionary Snipers. There's a bullet fells Johann Rall, who's the Hessian Lion. That's the commander of the Trenton garrison. And he's mortally wounded, and that's a great turning point in the battle. And this is just one day in 10 crucial days, which will change America, the United States, which is only 6 months old at the time, and it will change the world. And that is the beginning of really, it's where America really prevails and begins to prevail. It's a great turning point in the American Revolution.
And then on top of that, we see the numbers 250 everywhere coming up for Independence Day, coming up in 15 days. So, Freedom 250, America 250. I said Independence Day 250 earlier, but it's the 251. It's the 251, the U.S. Army celebration as well. Final word on that.
And Revolutionary Snipers are the first members of the Continental Army. These are the 10 rifle companies, actually 13 total, because there was such a groundswell of individuals that joined the Army. But it's all about the founding and our founding ideals of freedom and liberty. And it's those founding ideals that are so important today. And, all of the things, this is some of the most dangerous times in American history. It's our founding that will save us, in the founding ideals of freedom and liberty, and going back to that and understanding what these men and women fought for.
It's so true, and it's something that we remember and we talk about here at Right Side, and it's great to have historians and authors like you join us here and talk about really what that was like, 250 years ago, but also to never forget what our great patriots did then and what our great patriots are doing now, hopefully passing the Save America Act. That's a whole nother story, but we need to do what we can do. And, you fight for your freedom legally, lawfully, and spiritually. And thank you, sir, for writing these great books out there and spending time with us here on Right Side this Friday. Patrick O'Donnell, author. Great stuff, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Awesome stuff. Great to see people out there just, we talking about all of these things that, if you're a student of history, you already know some of that, but to just bring it back up again, as we are, again, 15 days away from celebrating our country's independence. And it's the same American fighting heart and spirit that we have are in patriots across this country. And we just want to make sure that we keep the Constitution, the law of the land, and freedom for the next 250 years. All right, so we know that President Trump today will be on his way to Camp David. There are a number of meetings that he'll have there with his cabinet and getting his intelligence briefings, that kind of thing. Remember, this was a few weeks ago that he was going to go to Camp David, and there was some weather systems and just some inclement weather going on, so they postponed the trip. Well, it's happening this weekend in Maryland, so we'll be possibly seeing the president a little bit later at Joint Base Andrews as he takes off there. But regardless, that's what's going on. That's the latest that we know from the White House right now. And of course, there's a lot of stories out there. The president just signing that memorandum of understanding in Versailles, France, just the other night. And we'll see how that all transpires. You saw, of course, J.D. Vance yesterday holding that White House press briefing. So as we see various things here that come across the wires, as they say, in this 24/7 news cycle, we'll share that with you. Now, we do have some more live interviews coming up. We have some more videos as well. Before we get to that, let's go to a few of our sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, including All Family Pharmacy. Great time to get some extra medications if you need them, maintenance medications, antibiotics, ivermectin, 25% off, because as you know, Father's Day is this weekend, June 21st, and if there's one thing dads are known for, it's making sure the family is prepared. You keep the extra batteries, you have the tools in the garage, and a plan for just about everything. So why should healthcare be any different? Right now, our sponsor, All Family Pharmacy, is helping families stock up on the medications they need with a Father's Day sale of 25% off site-wide through June 22nd with that RSBN 25 promo code. And whether it's everyday prescription medications, as I was mentioning, allergy medications, antibiotics, ivermectin, NAD+, or other treatments prescribed by a licensed physician, All Family Pharmacy makes the process simple and convenient. All you have to do is complete a short online medical form, and a licensed doctor will review your information and determine if a prescription is appropriate. Now, if approved, your medications are shipped directly to your door. It's simple, it's fast, and the way healthcare should be. So don't miss out on this Father's Day sale. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN 25 code to get that 25% off. And one of the pharmacists from All Family Pharmacy will join us at 1:45 Eastern Time. So looking forward to that. Let's go to Tax Network USA. As some people might owe back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, or have you filed every year but you still keep owing? Maybe you're a business owner with some messy books and a balance you can't afford, or Maybe you pulled money from your 401k or IRA early and now the IRS wants its share. However your tax history started, the outcome unfortunately is the same. Your balance not going down, your penalties growing, your interest compounds, and a number of people still owe back taxes. So if you'd like, just go ahead and give them a call, 877-479-6503. They're going to help you because the IRS, they're not waiting. They're enforcing collections through wage garnishments, bank levies, property seizures, and in some cases, they could even file for you without your consent. So this is where Tax Network USA really comes in. With more than 15 years in business, there hasn't been a tax case they haven't seen and resolved. They specialize in tax controversies and help taxpayers nationwide get back on track by resolving back taxes and unfiled returns once and for all. So whether you owe 10 grand or $10 million, their team has resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. They can do the same for you, but you have to call now. They're offering this free investigation call with the IRS. And after that investigation, they put a clear case plan in place to resolve your tax problem and get you back on track. So this is really about using your legal rights to take control before the government sets the terms for you. So don't wait for another IRS letter or a frozen bank account. Just call 877-479-6503 as you see that number there on your screen, or go to the website, tnusa.com/RSBN. As we are live here on Right Side, let's go to a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with some more headlines after that.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to RSBN Live on this Friday, June 19th. It's 12:38 Eastern Time. Thanks again for live streaming in with us. And the president, as I mentioned earlier, if you're just joining us, on his way to Camp David a bit later today for the weekend. Let's stick to Washington, D.C., though, for now. And the United States Park Police working to keep things moving and safe in our nation's capital. Let's go to clip number 5.
This is Inside Interior. This week, we want to recognize the extraordinary work of our U.S. Park Police. Working alongside the FBI, United States Secret Service, and local law enforcement, they helped stop a terrorist attack aimed at those who were attending the UFC event at the White House last weekend. Thanks to this heroic work, the UFC Freedom 250 Fight Night will go down as one of the most epic sporting events in our country's history. Their work reflects a broader commitment across the department to make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful. This administration understands that decay is a choice, but so is renewal. That's why the National Park Service is restoring pride in our nation's capital through improvements at Columbus Circle, Meridian Hill Park, the Lincoln Memorial, and other iconic public spaces. As we approach America's 250th anniversary, Secretary Burgum is also supporting efforts to reauthorize the Legacy Restoration Fund, strengthening investments in our public lands and ensuring lasting benefits for future generations. For decades, residents of the Anaktivuk Pass fought to regain access to traditional hunting grounds inside Gates of the Arctic. Now, thanks to Interior's action restoring off-road vehicle access for subsistence hunting, local families can once again reach the lands their ancestors relied on for generations. It's a major win for local communities in the preservation of Alaska Native traditions and ways of life. That's it for this week's Inside Interior.
All right, and coming up, we'll be hearing from the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, as there was an event today just after yesterday's Medal of Honor recipient ceremony at the East Room of the White House, and the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, speaking about that as well, and we'll have more from the Pentagon a bit later. Now, meantime, in a nod to Freedom 250, today I'm wearing this Freedom 250, actually it's on this side, Freedom 250 American flag pin. Here's a close-up shot of it out of respect for the United States of America at our 250th birthday. By the way, you can purchase this on Amazon. I got mine on Amazon. And you can also check out some other gear at freedom250.org. So proud to wear that pin right here today. And again, if you want one, I got mine for, I think it was $9 on Amazon. There's, again, freedom250.org has a ton of gear as well, as we are getting ready to celebrate in 15 days our country's independence. And glad you're with us here on Right Side on this Friday, June 19th. Again, starting out with what President Trump is up to. He's going to be heading to Camp David and also meeting with a few military service members at Joint Base Andrews on his way to Camp David. So if we see a live feed of that, we'll go to that. If not, of course, if there's any breaking news or anything that opens up when it comes to open press with the White House, we'll gladly share that information with you. Let's take another quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. As we await a number of our live interviews on deck here at the network, the Trump administration is tackling waste, fraud, and abuse within the unemployment insurance program. We're going to get to that video in just a minute, but let's go to some of our sponsors in the meantime. Kalshi.com/RSBN. You see the trending political market right now. You can check that out if you'd like by going to the QR code right there. It'll take you directly there. You can also download the Kalshi app or go to Kalshi.com/RSBN. Of course, people that want to bet or trade or just check out the polls, there are more than 1 million people using Kalshi, that number growing. And of course, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to politics, the U.S. economy, the war that's in the Middle East. President Trump, of course, calling it a war on Truth Social today as well. So we'll see how long that will last. President Trump, of course, signing that memorandum of understanding just the other day, and so did the Iranian leader. So we'll see what transpires there. But again, there's a lot of those topics that are being discussed on Kalshi, including weather, sports, faith, all sorts of stuff, music, movies, name it, pretty much, it's there, Kalshi.com/RSBN. Let's go to another sponsor here, Cove Pure, of course, great sponsor here on Right Side. And we've been talking about this for, maybe a week and a half or so, but just in case you missed it, apparently researchers have been documenting male fish developing female characteristics in rivers all across our country. It comes from birth control pills that wastewater treatment plants can't fully filter out, and it's in the same water that runs into your home. So if you're a man watching right now, or you have sons, grandsons, or loved ones in your life, and this is not something you can really ignore, that's why it's so important to use Cove Pure to purify your water. So here's how this actually works. When people take medication, their bodies don't absorb all of it. The rest gets flushed, goes through wastewater treatment plants. Then those plants were never built to catch pharmaceutical compounds. So estrone from birth control pills, antibiotics, antidepressants, they just come right back out of your tap. Your standard pitcher filter from the store isn't going to cut it here. These compounds are just too small and persistent. You really need something that can filter things at a molecular level, and that's exactly what Cove Pure is. Their Clearwave reverse osmosis technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. So estrone or fluoride, PFAs, lead, arsenic, basically anything that isn't water gets filtered out. And unlike traditional reverse osmosis systems, Cove Pure couldn't be easier to set up. You just put it on your counter, you fill it up with water and plug it in. And the best part is it lets you select whatever temperature you want. So, of course, hot water for things like tea and coffee, cold water for the gym, maybe warm water for baby bottles if you have any newborns like my family, like my wife and I. One tap of the button and you get it instantly, hot, cold, or warm. So back to that beginning there with those researchers, those fish didn't have a choice about what was in their water. You do. So just go to covepure.com/RSBN, and right now you get that $250 off. That's covepure.com/RSBN. A great purchase, a great product, and a great investment right there for clean drinking water. Drink pure, live pure, covepure.com. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, who wants to drink tap water, right? I don't. I don't know how many people like tap water out there. I almost want to pull up the chat just because it's a Friday and just because we can do so. Director, why don't we get that going? Let's pull up the chat and talk to a few people if they like tap water or not. And the director just said to me it takes a second just to pull that all up, so we'll get to that in just a second. But as we wait for that, again, we're gonna go to you here in just a second on the live chat. Real quick, just was curious, and we'll dive back into the 24/7 news cycle and all the things, but I'm wondering, do you like tap water? Do you drink tap water? I am a big 100% no on that. I don't like the way it tastes. I don't like when I've used other filter systems and you can see the amount of junk that's in there by getting a kind of a reader on it. Covepure.com/RSBN is a great product to get away from the tap water taste. Some of you might have a well out there that you drink from that's connected to your house. I know some people that do that, but let's go to that chat. I want to know, do you guys drink tap water, yes or no? I'm going to pull it up on my phone too. This one I'm curious in. It's just one of those real quick side notes that I want to see what people are saying about this because it is just awful stuff. Okay, I drink tap water if I have to, but I run tap water through another water filter. Okay, no tap water for me unless it's filtered, Brother Matthew. Thank you, Chef MDT second. Hello, Matthew. I have well water and it's clean. Okay, so you have no on tap water. Leslie Lady Hawk says that. Let's see what else here. Anybody else? A couple more. Let's see. No when it comes to tap water. So there you go. Just wanted to quickly get that. And there's another person saying no, Matthew. Okay, so just was curious. Nobody is saying they like tap water. And that's my point here. This person says, I boil my water and I put a clean copper penny and a naked zinc one in the container. Okay. Anyway, so I use bottled water for drinking. I boil water for my iced tea. See, we all have this situation, right? And that's exactly the point I'm trying to make. So that's why it's great to have something like covepure.com/RSBN. Anyway, let's get back to it here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's go from tap water to the friendly skies. For clip number 2, the FAA is upgrading its communication devices at airports all across the country. Here's Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy with some more details as we await some live interviews.
In air traffic control, if a pilot can't hear a controller, we have a big problem.
And in order for us to effectively communicate with pilots, we need good radios.
Right now, many pilots and controllers are communicating with technology from the 80s and 90s. Our airspace needs the latest and greatest tech. That's why we're installing 27,000 new digital radios and voice switches across the country. It's like moving from a walkie-talkie to a brand new iPhone.
We are here in Oakland Airport and we are tuning and installing the new radios for air traffic control. These new radios are more advanced and more reliable for air traffic control.
With the old system, we would have frequency congestion, radios not working properly.
These new radios give the controllers the confidence they need to effectively and safely do their job.
This makes the conversation between the cockpit and the air traffic control tower crystal clear.
And with these new radios, we are seeing less miscommunications, less static, less overall congestion.
Pilots and controllers need to have communications at all times, and those communications need to be very reliable.
When lives are on the line, loud and clear isn't just a phrase, it's a requirement.
Okay, before we get to some of the latest coverage from the White House, specifically details of whether it's stories that the White House is following or just other things that are happening there with 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. We're going to dive into that in just a second. But first, let's go to the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who just held an event at the Pentagon.
Well, good morning. Do you remember what you were doing on October 2nd, 2012? Of course you don't. He does. A few of you do. It was a Tuesday. Maybe you dropped off the kids at school, picked up some groceries, watched a baseball game. We live in a nation of such comforts because of the 1% who offer to go into harm's way, who understand the power of that date in this room. They exchange a civilian life for a foxhole or maybe a faraway ship, or perhaps the rugged mountains of Afghanistan 7,000 miles from here. And in that 1% are those who go above and beyond. Our Medal of Honor recipient, Major Nicholas Dockery. The stories of these Americans begin with taking an oath to the Constitution and asking for God's help. These Americans get up in the dark when others are still sleeping. They live by a creed that says, in part, I am a member of a team. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat, and I will never leave a fallen comrade behind. Lieutenant Dockery was forward deployed to Afghanistan as an infantry rifle platoon leader. And by the time he'd arrived, his platoon had seen months of intense fighting. As the chief mentioned, not an easy environment to walk into. On that day, they were providing security for a meeting between U.S. and Afghan leaders. But there was a gap. The majority of their adjacent units had already left, so they were vulnerable. We know the story of what Lieutenant Dockery did. Shielded a fellow soldier from a grenade blast, rescued a sergeant and administered life-saving procedures, led reinforcements to the compound. He protected his comrades. Major Dockery, what you accomplished on that fateful October 2nd is the essence of gallantry in action. The enemy you fought there and the radical Islamists we still fight today, these are as familiar to us as light against dark. And so on that Tuesday, when most Americans were going about their regular, comfortable daily lives, Lieutenant Dockery faced an ambush that would have broken lesser souls. Outnumbered, cut off, and his comrades being hit from all sides, Dockery stood up. There wasn't time for him to think back on the text that he had read at West Point. He just summoned the same righteous resolve that carried our forefathers from the Battle of Trenton to the beaches of Normandy. Major Dockery did not fight for glory. He fought because his soldiers needed him. Something much deeper than orders called him to action. The Medal of Honor and this ceremony for his induction into the Hall of Heroes doesn't repay what Nicholas Dockery did there. No medal could. It is given because as a nation, we have to remember, we have to honor, and we have to celebrate. What we honor, what we celebrate in any society is a reflection of what we value. And we spent a lot of time clickbaiting and rage baiting on celebrity culture and gossip, and not enough time on substance. shining a light on the men and women who do the real hard things. Today we celebrate, today we remember, and today we honor. We remember that in the darkest places on earth, Americans, brave Americans, still march forward. As we know from the Gospel of John, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Major Dockery, you have shown us what it means to be a warrior. And for your acts of valor, your nation thanks you. You wear that medal. I have a chance now in this role to meet a handful of incredible Americans who wear that medal, but I once only knew one who was on his way to getting the medal in David Bellavia, who now is a small part of that group. And I remember looking at David and others now that wear it with sheer pride, with nothing but almost bubbling up pride, because you wear that medal on behalf of so many, on behalf of our generation. So many more that didn't do anywhere near what you did, but were a small part of that mission for the men and women to the right and to our left. And so we are proud of you. We are proud of you. We are proud of everyone who wears that medal, and may this nation hold you up as the true representatives of what it means to serve and to sacrifice on behalf of the freedoms that we love. God bless you, and God bless our great republic. Thank you very much.
Undersecretary Obadal, General Laniv, Sergeant Major Weimer, and Major Dockery, please join Secretary Hegseth on stage for the induction ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated during the presentations. The President of the United States of America, authorized by Act of Congress, March 3, 1863, has awarded in the name of Congress the Medal of Honor to Second Lieutenant Nicholas Dockery, United States Army, for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty. Second Lieutenant Dockery's conspicuous gallantry, extraordinary heroism, and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty are in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon himself, his unit, and the United States Army. A framed Medal of Honor citation and photo is presented by the Undersecretary of the Army to Major Dockery.
All right, a great event there at the Pentagon. The day after, a number of great military service members received their Medal of Honor that you saw, of course, at the White House in the East Room as President Trump awarded the recipients there and, of course, won posthumously. This, as President Trump will be headed to Camp David this weekend. We're going to get into some of the headlines that we're seeing out there and some of the various things we're seeing when it comes to some of the accomplishments and other things at the White House. We'll get to that in just a minute. So let's do this. Let's go to some of our sponsors in the meantime as we await some interviews here on the network. All Family Pharmacy is one of them. Of course, Father's Day is this weekend, and if there's one thing dads are known for, it's making sure the family is prepared. You keep the extra batteries, tools in the garage, and a plan for just about everything. So why should healthcare be any different? Right now, our sponsor, All Family Pharmacy, is helping families stock up on the medications they need with a Father's Day sale of 25% off site-wide through June 22nd. You can use that RSBN 25 code, whether it's everyday prescription medications or allergy medications, antibiotics, ivermectin, NAD+, or other treatments prescribed by a licensed physician. All Family Pharmacy makes the process simple and convenient. All you have to do is complete that short online medical form, and a licensed doctor will review your information and determine if a prescription is appropriate. Now, if approved, your medications are shipped directly to your door. This is all simple, fast, and the way healthcare should be. Don't miss out on this Father's Day sale. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN and use code RSBN25 to save 25% off through June 22nd. Again, that's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. We'll have the pharmacist, one of the pharmacists from All Family Pharmacy will join us in about 45 minutes from now. Buy gold and put some silver in your pocket if you'd like. Now, if you don't have the extra cash to do so, which is a common thing that we're dealing with here in this country, there's a lot of expenses out there. But one thing you can control right now that doesn't cost you anything out of pocket is diversifying your retirement savings. So Birch Gold Group will help you convert an old 401k from a previous employer or an IRA into a physical IRA in gold, something that's a hedge against inflation. And check this out. Right now, Birch Gold is going to give you a special America 250 1-ounce silver round that you see there on your screen for every $10,000 you purchase by July 10th. So 10 years ago, an ounce of gold was about $1,200. Today, it's around $4,500. The question is, where will it be 10 years from now? Just text Trump to that number, 989898, to take advantage of free America 250 silver with qualifying purchase before July 10th. Again, text Trump to that number, 989898 today. All right, here are some of the headlines we're seeing out there in Washington, D.C. The Washington Examiner exclusive saying Trump highlighting what he's done for American workers. Of course, we've seen that where President Trump has been touring the country and delivering speeches in various states, but also we're seeing a lot, especially with those taxes, man. That was great to have quite the refund. I think a lot of people saw that this past go around. The Breitbart poll that's out there, a strong majority of U.S. voters approve of Trump's Iran deal. The Financial Times saying U.S. launches trade investigation into Germany's spending on new medicines. Also with Breitbart, exclusive, Trump delivers 13 straight months of zero illegal alien releases at U.S.-Mexico border. So we're seeing a lot of different things go on out there. We'll get back to some more of that in just a second, but let's bring in somebody that is running for governor, of course, in the great state of Minnesota. Mike Lindell is joining us now. Thanks so much for joining us, Mike.
Thanks for having me on, Matt. This is
Definitely.
awesome.
No, it's awesome to have you join us here on Right Side because, you know, also we're seeing this recent KSTP, a local ABC station there in Minnesota, and a Survey USA poll that you're the one that's leading the GOP field heading into the August primary. That's got to be feeling good, right?
I was so excited. I know there was a poll that came out, it was an internal poll that we had done in, I think the third week in May, and I was favored then going into this GOP convention where these delegates get to pick who they endorse, and that's always been the way it is, and everyone's supposed to drop out. So here we are a couple weeks later, and I'm number one, and by quite a margin. I think it's over 5%, and so I was so excited. We did our first big parade 2 nights ago, and we got the news right when we were leaving on the parade. I'm just really excited because there were so many things happened at the convention. The voting machines went down, everybody. What? And for 3 hours, the clickers and there are hanging signs. Mike was right. But I'm really excited because it just brought a new confidence into our campaign, and we've got to change. We got to change now. We got to do a different input to get a different output.
Exactly, and that's the way to get better results, of course. Let's talk about your lieutenant governor, your running mate, Philip Parrish. Tell us about him and that announcement and why he's a perfect 1-2 punch, figuratively speaking, to turn Minnesota around, Mike.
Yeah, this came out of the convention too when we were up there. I was looking for, he had to pick a lieutenant governor in early June, and Philip Parrish, he was running for governor, and he's been he's a farmer, but he was also with the he was an what do you call it? Investigator. He's an investigator, is what he is. I know when he was in the I believe it was the Marines. And he was the first one, by the way, in the private sector to show all the fraud here in Minnesota. So this is his specialty, is he'll be able to dig into all these as considered like a COO, being you're talking business, a CEO, him being a COO going, hey, we need to investigate all these We have 24 welfare programs in Minnesota, over 400 NGOs. They all need to be looked at and get to the bottom of all these things and hold these people accountable. I mean, this is our own government, your Elon Omars, your Keith Ellisons, and your Tim Waltzes of the world. And I think Phil will be coming on here this in a little bit if you can get him on, or if he can be on today, that would be great.
Yeah, no, definitely. It'd be great to have him join us here on Right Side. And you were just talking about Minnesota, and when you were saying the bad things that are going on there, it made me think about over in New York State at the Niagara Falls and Minnesota going down the falls there. But you guys are turning around the ship if you and Philip are running the show. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's just what I'm doing is you look at these programs, there's so many things that are problem solution. Me as a CEO, I know when I first announced, I went on the media here. You wouldn't even know I'm running in Minnesota media, though. That's how I get the word out. They usually attack me, but they don't here. They're on to me in Minnesota. But the first one I did, this interview with WCCO, they said, well, Mike, isn't My Pillow bankrupt? I go, no, who told you that? We're still standing in spite of all the attacks. Well, the next question was, well, Mike, wasn't all your information, your stuff, your election stuff was all wrong? You owe $5 million for the challenge you had back then. I said, no, that was overturned right here in Minneapolis by the 8th Circuit. They said Mike was right, no money owed because I was right, and they. So you had all of this narrative out there. They're trying to just, well, Mike's not electable and all this. No. The thing is, it's more having a businessman. I built My Pillow from nothing up to this, thousands of employees, 85 million My Pillows sold, from the American dream on steroids, going from an addict to where I'm at. Then to have the company be the most attacked company in history by our own government and by lawfare. My employee-owned company, and then we're still here, and we haven't chose to leave Minnesota like a lot of companies and people are getting ready to, because we have the highest corporate tax in the nation, or close to the top, highest income taxes. We have the third in regulations against for businesses. I mean, high property tax, you name it. It's terrible. Then we have $20-some billion taken in fraud sent over to Somalia. I mean, you have major problems here. We're also the Trojan horse for Sharia law, where we have all these Muslims practicing Islam. And I've said this 5 years ago, and now with the fraud, though, it's a blessing here. I look at everything as a blessing. It's a blessing because now I can say ban Sharia law, and I'm not a racist. You got to realize we had a governor that put a satanic statue in our capital here in Minnesota. And he said we have to be fair. Fair to the devil? I mean, you got to be kidding me. But we've got great plans, Matt. I'll tell you, I'm going to get my budget together, but let's just talk when you talk about these welfare programs and these NGOs, let's just take the fraud out of it. If you take the fraud out, you have to look at each one. Do they have a good return on your investment? And what I mean by that is, are people getting the help they need? Is it does it have an end? Do you teach these people, are people how to get, if they're homeless, how to get jobs? And, you solve the underlying problems rather than just giving and giving and giving and giving and putting it out there, where we just had to bail out a hospital here in Minneapolis because all the illegals and everyone else that needs other kind of help and going in there and just getting this free help with not solving the problems. And this is what I did when I came out of addiction January 16, 2009. For the next 12 years, I worked with the homeless, people in addiction, put millions of dollars into things like Teen Challenge, Salvation Army, helping out the inner city of Minneapolis, St. Paul, even Detroit, where I went into Detroit with this program I had to help. People in private sector want to help, but they want to know they're getting a good bang for their buck. When we use the private sector with a lot of these programs, and we saved almost 40%. Can you imagine if I plug this thing in here when I'm governor and saving another 40%? All the money that is spent, you could look at any state. How do you have states like, Florida and Texas with all these, in Texas with no income tax? I mean, there's a reason that they're able to do that. They're looking at their programs where they're not being stole from, or they're making them good returns where they get, they workable programs where you have people. I'll tell you, I'm good friends when he works with me at Lindell TV with Rudy Giuliani. Remember when he made New York the safest city in the world, right? Well, he took one of the things he did, and we were talking the other day, is he made panhandling illegal, and you couldn't if you're let's say you're at a stoplight, and the people come up and wipe your windshields, and they hold out their hand for money, right? Well, he arrested them all on the first day. He says there was 220 of them, I believe, and he brought them all in. But you know what he did? He gave them all jobs working for the city. So he gave them to clean up the city. So he gave them good. That's what they needed. They wanted jobs. They needed help. And they solved that problem. And another thing, the traffic in New York sped up 35% because you didn't have the people stopping at the intersection. But there's just so many problem solutions in Minnesota, which should also be nationwide. I have a great plan for the illegals I'm actually going to be bringing that one to the president. And I think everybody will be happy with what I have planned there. And then you've got teachers. We have education in Minnesota. I want to tell everyone this. As a businessman, I met with all the teachers, a lot of them across the state. In Minnesota, we went from one of the top in the nation for testing to now in the bottom third, I believe, or at least in the middle to bottom third. At the same time, we spent 29% more money on our education here. Well, something's wrong with that. You flipped it. Costs more, but you get less results. It's horrible. So as a businessman, I look and going, okay, there's 50 other states out there. I wonder if any state has done it right and it's completely flipped it the other way. Well, there's one state that stands above all, and that's Mississippi. And Mississippi did exactly the opposite. Spent 30% less money, and they went from 50th in the nation in a few years to like 35, and now here they are. I think they're in the mid-teens. And it's just, you take that, I've met with them, and you're just going to plug it right in here in Minnesota, and no one's going to argue with success.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I mean, it's common sense stuff right there.
Yeah.
And from a 30,000-foot view, the American people, and specifically in Minnesota as well, that are on the right side of history, when they think of Mike Lindell, of course, they'll think My Pillow, but they will think election integrity, election security,
Right.
a great patriot that loves the nation, a guy that runs a great company, and somebody that wants to bring common sense to a state and turn things around. You mentioned something about Sharia law. We interviewed Tommy Tuberville, of course, the gubernatorial candidate for Alabama. He's 100% against Sharia law. And he wasn't saying it's against the Muslim faith. It was more of those that practice Sharia. And it reminds me of both of you guys would be great to be governors in Alabama and Minnesota from top to bottom. Anyway, let's get to one point, though. The Save America Act, if it's not passed at the federal level, would you call on states to implement a similar law at the local level?
Oh, absolutely. We're doing everything we can from the ground up. Remember, I built a team of over 300,000 people called the Cause of America, and also the Election Crime Bureau, which is all, you guys can all check that out at vocal.com. That's VOCL. But absolutely, I would want to put everything. I will tell you this, Matt, as we roll into this midterms, the most important midterm, maybe the most important election in history at this point, period, across our nation. So everything, all the progress we made cannot be in vain. So as we look at these things, you do everything possible. And if it can be done at the state level, absolutely. I mean, and it should be. I mean, it's the most common sense thing there is. That you think of course you should live here in the United States and be a citizen to be able to vote in these elections. You think back, it wasn't too long ago, this socialist in New York, you had to have 2 forms of ID to get paid to shovel snow in New York. I mean, this stuff is so, if you can't get this Save America Act pushed through, what's wrong with our Republicans that are in there that right now? I mean, there's something terribly wrong. What, do they have a hidden agenda we don't know about? Remember, even the Democrats of the people is polling at 79% that they want IDs that they want the Save America Act.
Mike, I was just thinking about how back in around 2020, the country knew what happened there. They used COVID. They used the mail-in ballots. There's no way Trump lost the 2020 election. We know that.
Right.
But when you were on some of the, I'm not even going to name the networks. If you want to name the networks, you go ahead. But you were on some networks, and I remember one of the anchors had to walk off the set because you started talking about the machines and all the things.
Right.
I mean, I get that there's a lot of legal stuff in there, so we're not going to name any things there. But in general, let's talk about the media. You're not somebody that is on some of those networks anymore because you talk too much truth, don't you?
Right. No, absolutely. And here's everyone, this is where we're at nowadays. We have our biggest voice in history. You go back 5 years, you had RSBN, and you guys stood above and beyond all of them, being able to go on there and tell it like it is. They didn't attack me that I wanted the 2020 election overturned, you guys. The deep-rooted thing was they didn't want to get to paper ballots hand counted. Over 132 countries have banned electronic voting machines in their election.
132 countries, Mike.
132 countries
have banned them.
Have banned them. The last one's Argentina. It took one judge to say they got to go. Remember, all of South America was taken by the machine, starting with Venezuela back in the early 2000s. And I had the underground in Venezuela crying on the phone back in January of 21, Mike, please don't give up, don't give up. They took our country. We were praying that it would happen to the United States sometime so that maybe people could wake up. Seriously. And
I can't believe it.
Right. And here's the deal. You're right. Back then, what we broke through, you guys, is the biggest cover-up to the biggest potential crime the world had ever seen in history, and that's taking the United States without firing a shot, and that's it. And we broke through that. And what that was is back then when it was you're talking about two networks. When Smartmatic sued Fox News on February 4th of 2021, it started lawfare that hadn't been done in our country since the 1700s, and that silenced Fox News and Newsmax. That's the one that ripped the thing off me back then. Both of them. Now you got two places that you trusted to hear the news, and they silenced them immediately. No one has been able to go on either channel and talk about our election platforms. Now hear me very closely, i.e. getting rid of the voting machines, or at least having this conversation. They've been silenced ever since. And that includes our president to go on there and say, hey, we got to get the paper ballots and ban the electronic voting machine. They won't allow that on Fox or Newsmax. Salem Media is very close third. And I will say that they're very close. They bended a little bit, but they were afraid out of fear back then. Now this is it. And what they have become when they talk about our election platforms is weather channels that will not report hurricanes or tornadoes. Can you imagine that being a weather channel, but we're not going to report the two most important things? This is where they're at, and this is where it's different today, Matt. This is where there's so much hope for our country and for these elections that are going to happen this fall, is because you can now, people are not getting, when they say, oh, I spent 10 million, you need to spend 12 million to win the general election. Well, that's old school, everybody. They're talking about advertising on your CNNs and Foxes and all your local stations, and with these commercials that bash this person and bash that candidate. Well, we're bigger than that now. We have over 14 social media platforms now, including my own, Vocal. And you have where years ago, when you go back 5 years, you had Zuckerbuck's Facebook and Jack Dorsey's crooked Twitter. That's what you had. You had one other one coming in, which was Parler, and it got wiped off the face of the earth on January 8th of 2021. So you silenced everybody overnight. And now, look what we have now. All these social media platforms, we have now Elon Musk X instead of Jack Dorsey's Twitter. Even Zuckerbuck at Facebook isn't covering things up anymore and saying false information, okay? You even have YouTube not banning people for speaking their mind now in free speech, which is that's pretty amazing, because Google controlling YouTube. Back in the day, I was attacked more by those two entities than anything. Google just went after me and to stop me from getting the word out. So what I'm saying is, whether it's good news or bad news, It's news. We have podcasts. We have big. It's not just you guys. RSBN. You guys had one of the only voices back then that stood in there as he got shot full of holes back then too. And as we grew together, I know back then, and our voice got bigger and bigger and bigger. That's why. But like I say, now you have everyone out there doing podcasts. We have Lindell TV. You guys were at the Pentagon, the White House, and the Capitol every day now with our, you get one of my reporters, you've seen that, Matt, where they're going, Pelosi said, "You just shut up." There was Allison.
Yeah.
And then another one, I told you to shut up last time, I tell you this time. Or she's interviewing Elon Omar, and says, "I don't have to tell you Jack Blank." So she's catching these congressmen and senators and getting that, not like the old days of just Fox giving them, the really hard question. No, they were giving them nothing. Now we're getting it out there and getting in their face, and it's going viral, millions of views.
What I've seen, Mike, is I've seen some of these cable outlets out there doing similar things to what your network, our network, and conservative media networks are doing, and staying on the right side of history and doing things like just going up to people with the phone. I saw one of those things happen on Fox the other day, and it's like, wait a minute, you're behind the eight ball on that, or behind the curve on that. Also, they're doing podcasts and all that. It is what it is on Fox. My point is, I like to be able to speak freely. Now, outside of any kind of violent rhetoric, right? Any threats, none of that stuff. But everything else, it's freedom of speech. And it's great to have Rumble and Truth Social as well, and various websites and apps. And to your point, the civilian, the citizen journalists that are out there. How about people that are on X that have more followers than probably you, RSBN, and others combined in some ways? Yeah. I mean, I know you have a lot of followers, trust me, but that's freedom, isn't it, Mike? It's the free flow. That's the free flow of information.
That's exactly right. This is the biggest thing where we have an advantage now we didn't have then. You guys, we have the biggest voice we've ever had in history. So when they go to do things like steal an election, our voice is so big, you're not going to be able to suppress it anymore. When I say the biggest victory we've had of the last 5 years is we broke through the biggest cover-up ever. They tried to suppress our voice, to cover it up, but we just kept talking, and we kept on fighting and kept hollering as loud as we could. And now we're coming out the other side where our voice just expanded. And now they're not going to be able to stop. If you say, when you said before about what about them stealing elections and the platforms this coming fall, they're not going to be able to do it. When we see a deviation now, everyone's going to go, wait a minute. You have more votes than voters. Come on. We got to see this. You can't hide anymore and make lies and cover it up or not say nothing. And I really believe that the fake news media they call your ABCs, CBSs, like I say, just the poll that came out said we're number one is that's big news. That was ABC because they have to report it correctly, but they have to talk about it. But what I'm saying is I believe the fake news, which the president calls that, we all call that, they're going to come around long before Fox and Newsmax start talking about these election platforms, because it baffles my mind, but that's the truth, everybody. But they're going to have to follow suit pretty soon and start talking about it's free speech. You have every right to. If you remember when Tina Peters got out the other day, one of the things the governor said, Polis said in Colorado, said, you know what? We can't keep her in there because of her free speech. We can keep her in there for what she did over here, but not for what she did over here. And I'm sure when she gets out, she's going to keep sounding the alarm, and that's exactly what she did. And so that's a big thing.
And the thing that I love, Mike, too, the thing I love, Mike, is that there could be a man or a woman anywhere in this country that we've never heard of that's on X, get some evidence or receipts to something that's happening, whether video or audio, that can go viral. And it doesn't mean that you're irrelevant at Lindell TV or RSBN. We're bringing together a family of community of patriots that love God, family, and country at our networks, and we want we want to win that information war because we know it's been stolen from us for so many years with all the media. But isn't that great, Mike? For a final point here, to talk about that, it can take just one person even outside of known people, to really sound the alarm onto what's actually happening.
Yeah, look at Nick Shirley in Minneapolis here, you guys. This guy was on X, he's an unknown, and all of a sudden, boom, it went viral. That's all it takes. And you can't keep the voice down anymore. It's over for that. Those days are gone. And
we got to keep that going though too, by passing the Save America Act, because my concern is, Mike, is we see what's happening in Europe with freedom of speech right now. So we need to make sure our country has our constitutional rights intact from now until Jesus returns. Let's shift to one thing finally, and I know we could talk a lot, you and I, Mike, man. Let's talk about your Father's Day sale and the July 4th America 250 sales at MyPillow. I know there's a lot going on there. So are both sales happening now, or is it just one of them?
But they're both sales where sales collide. I'll talk about the Father's Day one. That's our Giza Dream Sheets. They're as low as $29.98. We've had our Made in America socks that are on sale there. We have our toppers for as low as $99.98. And then we have our bathrobes, which are right here. Our bathrobes, you get $100 off. We actually have women's too, but those are $100 off. We've never the lowest price in history. Great gifts. But the biggest sale we have right now is our Made in the USA, celebrating 250 years, our anniversary. All the products we make here in the USA. Here's the body pillow, $39.98. We have the king size. Where it all started are my pillows. We've sold over 85 million now. The king size, $19.98 with the promo code RSBN, you guys. The biggest sale ever, and free shipping on your entire order. And here's another thing too. And then we have the mattresses and the mattress toppers. You guys, 6-month money back guarantee and 10-year warranty. These are life changing. Our mattress toppers we have that you guys have been around. I helped develop them and our mattresses. These hybrid mattresses with coil and foam to get you the best sleep cycles ever, and to get you great sleep. And you get them now 50% off plus the free shipping. That's on our employee-owned company. Those are employees. Shipping is expensive right now. Right to your front door, and then also you have another little surprise here. We've added about 40 products now to MyPillow. If you go to MyPillow and you scroll down, you're going to see the full price. Then put that RSBN code in there, and all these new products are going, wow, you're getting special prices no one else gets on a lot of, and they're categorized. You have the kitchen, the bathroom, the bedroom. They're all categorized now, and check out all these new products. So, and then, one last thing too, that same promo code RSBN, everybody works on mystore.com. Remember, I set that up I put millions of dollars in that to help over 1,000 entrepreneurs across this country. 100% made in the USA products, like the painting behind me of Jesus and the lion. I mean, all these products that are over there, you guys check them out. Remember, we have My Coffee. We have a new energy drink, Rev 7. You guys just check this out. Use that promo code RSBN. Free shipping on your entire order.
Awesome stuff. MyPillow.com/RSBN, mystore.com as well. Use that RSBN promo code. The great Mike Lindell, of course, running for governor in Minnesota. And sir, if Philip Parrish, your lieutenant governor running mate, if he wants to join us here in the next 30 minutes or so.
He's right here. He's on here right now. I see him.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and click over to that. Mike, thanks so much. We're going to go to Philip Parrish now.
Yeah, and Philip can give you his whole background and everything. He's absolutely amazing. Best pick I ever made.
Awesome. Mike, thank you so much. You're a patriot. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, let's go now to the candidate for Minnesota Lieutenant Governor, of course. Philip Parrish is joining us right now. Philip, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. We were just talking with Mike about Minnesota, and if you are the lieutenant governor of the state there, what would be some of the things you'd want to see done in that first 7 days?
The first 7 days, we're going to bring back the Minnesota flag that belongs there. And a lot of people think that that's a very important agenda. Some people might think that that's a little bit of a small part of all the big problems, but that Minnesota flag is coming back. I am immediately going to work with Mike and the team that I've established to get after all this fraud that we've been starting to see. I'm one of the original whistleblowers here in Minnesota. We have a great team lined up and ready to do essentially almost a Doge type activity, and great people that know what they're doing and how to dig into all of the thieving and grifting that's been going on.
Yeah, there's just a lot. I was talking to Mike earlier about, it looks like, the state of Minnesota, if you picture the Niagara Falls, it's on its way to drop down and just be obliterated. But you guys can turn the ship around. The Save America Act, if it's not passed on the federal level, Mike was saying, hey, we would call on our state and other states to pass it at the state level. Let's talk about the mail-in ballots. You remember in 2020 with COVID, how much of an abuse that was of mail-in ballots.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And we can make a difference with or without the Save America Act. We can make a difference with a lot of the plans that we've already put in place. We're watching everything. We're going to watch who's mailing in ballots, who's requesting ballots. We're going to pay the fee to track what they're tracking, and we're going to use their own games against them. So we have a great strategy across the state, a ground game. We're going to make sure we get after and expose all the people who are ballot harvesting off of these fake people, dead people. All that stuff is real. It's never been hyperbole. The people that have made us sound like we're crazy, they're starting to be exposed now. It's all been part of the reality of what we've been facing all along, and people are starting to understand that people like Mike and myself and many others have been telling the truth all along.
Exactly, and that's what we the people want, is the truth. We want our freedoms. We want this Constitution to keep on keeping on. And sir, I understand, obviously, a retired U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander. Can you tell us about your service? And then also, coming up in 15 days from now, Independence Day 250, Freedom 250. Your thoughts about that for our country, and to get 250 more years.
Wow, yeah. I'm emotionally proud and inspired by what I've been through personally and what I'm witnessing. And to be at this point, my career is an unusual career. I was supposed to be a reservist. I joined as a United States Navy intelligence specialist. I served as an enlisted person for just under 10 years. I accepted a direct commission. I'm a counterterrorism and foreign policy specialist. And I served on my last set of orders with a special task force that did follow the money work. And we were the people that were tracking couriers. Our job was to track and create briefings about couriers and how they were getting the money, where it was going to, where it was coming from. And that led to me being a whistleblower in Minnesota because of all the daycare fraud, because I came off of my last set of orders in 2017, and that led me to the opportunity to become very open about, and I minded my rules and my expectations, and I waited till after I was off orders. But I was able to articulate to leaders how bad the fraud in Minnesota really was. Fast forward from 2017 and 2018, we're going on almost 10 years later. Finally, people are seeing the whole truth. What this means for America in 250 years, we are at a turning point. We are at an inspiring moment where we're reviving what our country was built on. I highlighted a couple of really important people in their writings and their discussions, Bishop Barron's, things that are going on where people are having a revival of what our country was built on and why we are a constitutional republic. So I'm so excited and so proud. I'm so humbled to be a part of what's going on right now, because you couldn't have dreamt up what I've been through. Small town kid from southern Minnesota, born in 1965, looking forward to today. You couldn't have made this stuff up.
On top of that, and finally, thank you again for joining us here on the road there in Minnesota or wherever you may be right now. But the point is, when we look at Europe and we see the mass migration there, and we see the illegal immigrants, and we see the pushing of Sharia law, and we see the clampdown of freedom of speech and all of the things, how concerned are you that all of what I just said is going to happen in this country, much like maybe Northern Ireland right now, or parts of England and other, I mean, not as bad as China yet, but still, what are your thoughts about that and what we need to do to keep our country free?
It's very important, and I'm glad that you're still talking about it. Please keep talking about it. I'm uniquely qualified to talk about this because I spent 11 years overseas on active duty, primarily in Europe. And I personally witnessed, we're going back to like 2006, 7, 8, and then specifically in-depth connected to NATO for 2 years and in through 2016, all in Europe. My wife and I personally witnessed a culture shift that had started earlier, but had been even in 2010, 2011, 2012, really taking root in Europe that's destroying Europe. Back to Minnesota, people like Michelle Bachmann and Cindy Pugh here in Minnesota got really hammered for speaking the truth. And I ran into Cindy Pugh, former legislator, the other day, and we just had a great big hug and a tear almost because of where we're at today and all the we're trying to do over the last 20 years to expose to people how this intentional thieving and grifting and culture shift was intended, and it was ill intent and premeditated.
It is unbelievable to see it. We hope, we pray, we work hard. We fight for our country legally, lawfully, and spiritually for the best. And we hope that Mike Lindell will be Governor Lindell and that you would be the Lieutenant Governor, Philip Parrish, in Minnesota. Thank you again for joining us on the road there in the Grand Prairie State.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless you. And you might not see that on some other networks in the sense of mainstream media, of someone putting their endorsement or their support behind somebody. But, you think about this. In mainstream media, you have the leftists, right? You have the certain networks that are way left, and they say that they're, down the middle, and this is just covering the news. Well, they should just come out and say what they really are trying to do and be honest with the American people. Whether we have 100 people watching right now, live right now, or you're watching on replay and then final numbers are whatever they are. I mean, we've seen millions watch our broadcasts. We've seen thousands. Regardless, the point is that if it's just one person that can be encouraged to know that we look through a conservative lens here at this network. We're not afraid to say that. We've done that over the years, as you guys know. We are about we the people, the Constitution, all the things, the basics, common sense stuff, right? So yeah, go Mike Lindell and Philip Parrish in Minnesota. All right, let's go to some sponsors in the meantime here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. All Family Pharmacy, which is cool because a pharmacist is going to show up in a few minutes with All Family Pharmacy to join us. Father's Day is this weekend, and if there's one thing dads are known for, it's making sure the family is prepared. You keep extra batteries, tools in the garage, and a plan for just about everything. So why should healthcare be any different? Right now, our sponsor, All Family Pharmacy, is helping families stock up on the medications they need with a Father's Day sale of 25% off site-wide through June 22nd with code RSBN25. Now, whether it's everyday prescription medications, allergy medications, antibiotics, ivermectin, NAD+, or other treatments prescribed by a licensed physician, All Family Pharmacy makes the process simple and convenient. Just complete a short online medical form, and a licensed doctor will review your information and determine if a prescription is appropriate. Now, if approved, your medications are shipped directly to your door. Simple, fast, and the way healthcare should be. So don't miss out on this Father's Day sale. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN25 promo code. You get that 25% off. Also, let's go to another sponsor here, Birch Gold Group. You can buy some gold and put some silver in your pocket as well, but it's kind of expensive to do that. But here's the thing that's interesting. One thing that you can control right now that doesn't cost you anything out of pocket is diversifying your retirement savings. So Birch Gold Group will help you convert an old 401k from a previous employer or an IRA into a physical IRA in gold, something that's a hedge against inflation. And check this out. Right now, Birch Gold is actually going to give you that special America 250 1-ounce silver round that you see there for every $10,000 you purchase by July 10th. So a decade ago, an ounce of gold, just an ounce of gold, was $1,200. Today, it's around $4,500. And the question is, where will it be 10 years from now? Just text Trump to 989898 to take advantage of free America 250 silver with qualifying purchase before July 10th. Again, text Trump to that number, 989898 today. All right, so I wore the gold tie today, as you might see there. And then also, if we can show, I think it's clip 6, guys. It's a close-up of this Freedom 250 pin that I purchased. And you can check that out if you'd like as well. I'm not sure if we have that clip up there for you. Maybe we have a close-up of that. There it is, Freedom 250. So just a nod to our 250th, and just, you know, who doesn't like to have some patriotic memorabilia? If you follow me on Truth Social or X, you know I kind of like the American flag and all the patriotic stuff. It's just, you know, anytime I see something that's cool when it comes to our country, something that's patriotic, something that's giving a nod to the 250, you know, I'm pretty much posting it. Or I'm creating a grok image sometimes on AI and posting it too. Outside of that, I've got a lot of other stuff going on in the sense of I have a great family. Thank God for family, I'll tell you what. Marriage and having babies is the way to go. Anyway, just in case you're single out there and you might be like, oh, I'll go another 5 years without, go ahead and get married if you can find somebody. That's a whole different story. But anyway, it's 1:41 Eastern time here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Now, we've been talking about All Family Pharmacy. So let's go to David McCary. He is the All Family Pharmacy, one of the pharmacists joining us right now. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on Right Side.
Thank you for having me, and good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you as well. So we've been talking about the Father's Day sale. I believe it's 25% off right now. And the thing I really like about you guys is you have hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin, and you go through the process with you. If it's approved, then you get ivermectin, and you don't have to go to maybe a doctor that wouldn't prescribe such a thing. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So can you talk to us about some of the options there with All Family Pharmacy?
Sure, and thank you. So part of our model here, if you will, at All Family Pharmacy is to make it very simple, very easy, very user-friendly, convenient, and safe. At myself, as well as my other colleagues, all licensed pharmacists in majority of the states that we need to be, as well as here in Florida, obviously, for many, many years. And as well as the physicians, all licensed to practice, prescribing any medications that they feel are necessary for certain medical conditions. And we make it that much easier so you don't have to go to waiting room. If you're not feeling well, trying to make an appointment and you don't need to be told, oh, we'll get you in the next couple of weeks, you know, when you need to be seen right away. We have a wonderful staff that takes care of people for whatever needs that they, or situations and needs that are occurring at that moment. And like you said very nicely earlier, fill out a form, you'll be able to get your consultation, go over everything with the physicians. And once everything is approved, that they feel it's, you know, proper, then we start processing it, filling it out, and shipping it right out to you.
It's pretty wild to see that, you know, whether it's prescription medications or allergy medications, antibiotics, ivermectin, NAD+. I mean, you guys even have, I mean, just the basics, ibuprofen or a Z-Pack. You know what I mean? Like, tell us about some of the kits that you guys have as well. You can get an emergency kit, can't you?
Correct. That's one of the products that we carry, and basically what you said, that's a little bit of everything to cover something that you would need, whether it be for pain, anti-inflammatory. We carry the Medrol dose packs, steroidal dose packs for situations that you may need. You know, emergencies, obviously, if you have asthma, you know, bronchial issues, we carry nebulizing medications and inhalers. So the things that you should have on hand, and you usually do, but as we all know, being humans, sometimes we forget, we run out, we forgot to get a refill, and you realize it when it's a little bit too late. So we want to make sure that we, for our model, we don't have any restrictions, limitations by saying, oh, you can only get one a month. Oh, you can only get once every so often. We try to make it, if you need one for work, you need one for home, you need something for school, that we're able to work with the physicians and refills, especially when it comes to maintenance and medications that you take on a regular basis.
So if someone has any kind of symptom, right, can they go just to allfamilypharmacy.com and then is there like a FAQ page, just, frequently asked questions, or is there a phone number where it's like, hey, I've got this symptom, can you guys help out with this? What would you say would be the best prescription? I mean, is it almost like an urgent care in a way? Like, break down how this works with you guys.
Okay, so technically there would have to be by law, because we have to follow, just like any medical practice, any facility, any clinic. They have their laws and legal rights that they have to do. So do we as a pharmacy. So as you mentioned, when you go to the website or call, there will be an intake form that has to be filled out like you would anywhere. That's mandatory. That's the normal procedure, normal protocol. We get that information, find out what your issue is, what the problem is, what you're looking to get help with. And then we reach out, have the physician contact you. They do a teleconference call, they talk, they discuss, go over any allergies, go over previous medical history, all the things that are necessary to do that. Then they make their final decision based on that information that was given and presented to them to move forward with prescribing the appropriate.
Okay, so does there always have to be like a telehealth call or a communication with a physician? If say I want ibuprofen, right? Or if I want a Z-Pak, or if I want ivermectin, can I go to your site, fill out the short medical form, and then you guys review it from there, and then I can get that approved without all the extra stuff if I don't want to, go through telehealth? Or can you break that down too for us?
A physician still has to review it. We could not, just as pharmacists here, and we do have our physicians on staff, they still have to review it legally as part of the prescribing protocol. They have to verify, check everything. They might not need, especially if it's a refill, somebody that they already have all their medical information previously. They might not have to reach out and talk to you, but they certainly have to have a patient-physician relationship established. They have to. That's the law. But we make it very, very user-friendly, very easy, very convenient to be able to look at that. And the process just goes that much quicker than it would be driving to a location, sitting in a waiting room, or your own PCP saying, I can't get you in for a few weeks.
And then on top of that, if you have to go to one of the box stores out there, one of the pharmacies, you got to go through the whole thing. But with you guys, it does seem so much more streamlined. And right now, as I mentioned earlier, the Father's Day sale, just use that RSBN 25 code. You get that 25% off. David McCary, the All Family Pharmacy, one of the pharmacists there. Thanks so much, David, for joining us here on Right Side.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Great seeing you. And happy Father's Day.
Thank you. You too. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you. Awesome stuff. As it's 1:47 here Eastern Time, let's go to a couple sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, including the following. Kalshi.com/RSBN. If you're looking to bet or trade or check out the polls, you can do that right there at Kalshi.com/RSBN. A whole slew of various topics, from politics to weather to faith to sports, music, whatever, technology, science. A lot of people talking about a lot of different things on there, and then they're putting money on the line. See the polls on there. They're pretty interesting as well if you're not betting or trading and just checking it out. But if you are, Kalshi.com is the spot to do it. Kalshi.com/RSBN, the QR code, the app, or just go to that website, Kalshi.com/RSBN. Also, this is brought to you by CovePure.com. You may have seen this before here on the network, but if you haven't, apparently researchers have been documenting male fish developing female characteristics in rivers all across our country. We're told it comes from birth control pills that wastewater treatment plants can't fully filter out. And then it's in the same water that runs into your home. So if you're a man watching right now, or you have sons, grandsons, or loved ones in your life, this isn't something you can ignore. That's why it's so important to use CovePure to purify your water. So here's how we're told this works, and this is something that, you might know, that when people take medications, their bodies don't absorb all of it. So the rest gets flushed, goes through wastewater treatment plants. And then those plants were never built to catch pharmaceutical compounds. So estrone from birth control pills, antibiotics, antidepressants, they just come right back out of your tap. Your standard pitcher filter from the store just isn't going to cut it here. These compounds are too small, too persistent. You need something that can filter things at a molecular level, and that's exactly what CovePure is. Their ClearWave reverse osmosis technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. So estrone or fluoride, PFAs, lead, arsenic, basically anything that isn't water gets filtered out. Unlike traditional reverse osmosis systems, Cove Pure couldn't be easier to set up. You just put it on your counter, you fill it up with water and plug it in. And the best part is it lets you select whatever temperature you want. Hot water for tea and coffee, cold water for the gym, warm water for baby bottles. Really, it's just one tap of the button and you can get that hot, cold, or warm instantly. Those fish, of course, didn't have a choice about what was in their water, but you do. So go to covepure.com/RSBN, and right now you can get $250 off. That's covepure.com/RSBN. It is 1:50. It is Friday, as you guys know. Looking forward to the weekend. Hope you are too. And hopefully, it would be great if Congress just suddenly shows up in the session and says, let's nuke the filibuster and pass the Save America Act. Happy birthday, America. That'd be great. Will it happen? No. So Mr. Thune John Thune says that there are not enough votes to pass to nuke the filibuster. So that's not good. But, we can keep talking about it. And then, like I said with Mike earlier, if you're just joining us, I interviewed Mike Lindell earlier talking about his run for governor in Minnesota. And he said absolutely that if the federal government in Congress doesn't pass the Save America Act, states, local municipalities, counties all across the country should initiate as many of the points of the Save America Act. And on top of that, let's make it same-day voting, paper ballots, hand counted, only mail-in ballots that are for military or medical, that kind of thing, proof of citizenship, the voter ID, right? Man, it'd be great to see it. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
All right, welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. We have a few minutes left here on the broadcast. If there's anything live or breaking news that we see, we'll go to that. This is as President Trump will be heading to Camp David in Maryland this weekend. And let's go to a number of videos that we aired earlier, but they're very important. This one here from the outgoing DNI Director, Tulsi Gabbard, releasing some key information that is really exposing Anthony Fauci to a new level in relation to COVID. This video she posted just yesterday, so just keep that in mind as you're listening, because she says today's my last day as DNI Director, but still the content here is fascinating. Take a listen.
Before the COVID pandemic, Dr. Fauci, as head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, work which is now widely viewed as the source of the unintentional lab leak that sparked the pandemic. Now, in support of President Trump's maximum transparency mandate, Today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus's lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and countless lost lives. Now, these documents expose Fauci's direct role in influencing and manipulating IC assessments on COVID-19 and how Fauci lied to Congress in 2024 when under oath he denied knowledge of or participation in discussions with intelligence officials about viral research. We also received testimony from multiple intelligence community whistleblowers who reported retaliation for challenging the intelligence community's manipulation of intelligence on the virus's origins, once again revealing a clear pattern of suppressing dissent, silencing critics, and burying the truth. Dr. Fauci's close relationships with the intelligence community enabled him to assume three key roles that shield him from scrutiny. First, Dr. Fauci funded dangerous gain-of-function coronavirus research linked to Big Pharma and their pursuit of universal vaccines worth trillions of dollars. Second, Dr. Fauci was the behind-the-scenes advisor who, alongside his hand-picked so-called experts, pushed the intelligence community to endorse a natural animal origin to hide his dangerous gain-of-function research that he funded using taxpayer dollars, all of this in a deliberate attempt to cover up the truth and shift the blame and attention away from Fauci's own actions. Third, Dr. Fauci became the nation's pandemic pundit, and he publicly pushed lies, disinformation, and censorship using every platform available. Now, according to hundreds of reviewed emails, which are included in this release, the intelligence community almost always incorporated Fauci's recommendations. He promoted a fraudulent paper whose publication he helped prompt as legitimate information for intelligence community consideration. Senior analysts praised Dr. Fauci not as a policymaker, but as what they called an unbiased guide to the real coronavirus experts, while deliberately ignoring experts who might dissent from Fauci's narratives. Now, Fauci didn't stop there. He blatantly lied to Congress under oath during his 2024 testimony to the House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, denying that he ever spoke to any intelligence agency about COVID. Now, the correspondence I'm releasing today directly contradicts his sworn testimony. Now, we received statements from multiple whistleblowers revealing that the intelligence analysts who dared to challenge Dr. Fauci's COVID origin conclusions faced threats of retaliation, marginalization, and many suffered career setbacks. For example, a contractor was terminated just days after coming forward to ODNI as a whistleblower. Another example, those who advocated for the lab leak hypothesis or expressed dissenting views were reminded by their managers that leadership would determine which analysts would be promoted and which would not. The message was clear: go along or be punished. Senior leaders also sought to undermine whistleblowers by removing anonymity, which is required in the whistleblower process, as they made their complaints, and also insisting that their managers or attorneys be present during ODNI meetings where these whistleblowers were coming forward with their testimony, obviously creating an atmosphere of intimidation. The COVID pandemic caused tremendous hardship and pain for millions of our fellow Americans and countless people around the world. Now, after years of lies and censorship and cover-ups, the American people deserve transparency, truth, and accountability. The tactics that were used to hide the truth are straight from the deep state playbook. Politicized self-serving leaders like Dr. Fauci covered up their own wrongdoing and abuses of power, manipulated intelligence, lied to Congress, and undermined a duly elected president by restricting his access to the vital facts he needed to keep the country safe. It's time you know the truth.
All All right, so there you go from Tulsi Gabbard. If you want to rewatch that, you can either just replay it right here on the network or check out the X account for Tulsi. Also, the Trump administration, of course, is tackling waste, fraud, and abuse within the unemployment insurance program that we have out there in the States. Well, check this out, clip number 1.
The Trump administration and the Department of Labor are officially putting governors on notice. The American people will no longer tolerate the blatant waste, fraud, and abuse of their hard-earned tax dollars, and neither should any state. We are demanding immediate action to combat fraud, waste, and abuse within the unemployment insurance program. That's why, under President Trump, the Department of Labor is committed to using every lever available to ensure taxpayer money is protected. To date, we've discovered that the state of California owes more than $20 billion to the federal government after years of fraud, improper payments, and mismanagement of its UI system.
$320 million in improper payments from Illinois, and New York, my home state, is losing an estimated $2 million every single day to fraud and improper payments, while posting one of the highest improper payment rates in the nation, more than 20%. But the days of excuses, they're over. States that fail to protect taxpayer dollars and jeopardize benefits intended for hardworking Americans, they should expect consequences. Acting Secretary Sonderling and I will use every available enforcement tool to demand accountability, recover stolen money, and ensure unemployment benefits only go to eligible Americans.
Years of failed oversight, outdated technology, weak identity verification, and lax controls allowed unprecedented fraud to flourish. The Department of Labor is committed to rooting out fraud, enforcing UI eligibility requirements, and protecting American taxpayers.
All right, so we're going to end with one more clip here at RSBN for today. The White House, of course, is celebrating its UFC Freedom 250 event with a new video. Let's check it out.
UFC fans have traveled far and wide across the United States and around the globe, all to witness history and be a part of this uniquely special mixed martial arts showcase that is UFC Freedom 250.
Freedom at the White House on Donald Trump's birthday. What an event.
Welcome to UFC Freedom 250. Here is the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
From the South Lawn of the White House, Diego Lopez preserving status. Nickel of the White House. Mauricio lighting them up in D.C. Undefeated Josh Hawkins. All eyes on Sean O'Malley. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event.
And look at where we are. This is insane.
Ilya Topuria against the tried and true American Justin Gaethje.
These dudes are going at it.
Justin Gaethje with the ultimate career capstone at the Worlds.
One of the great upsets in the history of the sport. On the 250th anniversary, Justin Gaethje showed that American spirit that allowed him to become a world champion.
This is the greatest night in the history of combat sports.
Well, there you go. That was, of course, from Sunday, June 14th, as today's June 19th, getting ready for June 24th, as President Trump will deliver that address for the America is Back rally in Washington, D.C. And then that kicks off June 25th through July 10th, the Great American State Fair presented by Freedom 250. So looking forward to all of that coverage, including, of course, Independence Day 250. 15 days from today. So July 4th is 15 days from today. Now, President Trump is heading to Camp David in Maryland this weekend for numerous meetings. And then, of course, he'll be back in D.C. by Monday. Thanks so much for watching. Let's go to some of our sponsors here. MyPillow.com/RSBN, one of our great sponsors, longtime sponsors, of course. We saw Mike here on the broadcast earlier. MyPillow.com/RSBN, up to 80% off using the RSBN promo code as we get ready to celebrate our nation's 250th coming up. Also, if you'd like to donate to Right Side Broadcasting Network, you could do so. Just go to rsbnetwork.com/donate is the place to do that. If you'd like to send, if if you want to go old school, little snail mail flow, there's some people out there, great patriots, that do send us checks to a P.O. box. And this is the place to send one if you'd like. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama 36830. Again, 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama 36830. Thank you so much for donating to this network. Thank you so much for watching. We're grateful for our sponsorships, and you know what? At the end of the day, grateful for a lot of things, including the U.S. Constitution. All right, anyway, so it's 2:05 now, Friday, June 19th. Thanks so much for joining us here on Right Side. Have a great weekend. If there's breaking news, we're right here for you. We'll see you later.